Coach Sonny Cumbie. Coach, coming off a 24-0 defeat over Nichols at home this past Saturday. Let's just kind of wrap up that game and let's kind of preview the LSU game and take a few questions.
Well, I think that first off, I was really proud of how our kids played. You win a football game, in particular when you get a shutout. I think you'll start, with the things on all three sides of the football. I think from a special team standpoint, there were some question marks for us, in terms of, all right, who was going to be our punt returner. And I think that Dedrick Latulis did a great, unbelievable job on our punt defense unit in the return game. I think that there's the obvious returns that he made, but also the field position and the yardage that he saved us by fair catching and fielding punts. I think on that unit in particular, you had guys like Jamal Shelby and Jaden Mayfield who just had a tremendous night blocking on our punt defense. And so I think that it was a positive there. I think our kickoff return, I think there's a sequence of the football game for, Saturday night. The end of the first half, which I was really proud of our offense in the 2-minute situation of how they operated with no timeouts to be able to go down the field and get a field goal at the end of the first half. That was aided by a 15-yard penalty. And we talked to our kids a lot about practicing smart football. We start the second half, they're offsides, and the kickoff gives us another opportunity because we feel really good about our kickoff return unit. And Fred Robertson, makes them pay, and we get the ball on about the 42-yard line, the minus 42, and we go on and we score. And so I think that sequence of events there and our special teams really stepping up with Peanut making the field goal, and I think with our kickoff return unit, establishing Fred as a returner, I think Clay, who you'll hear from later, Tevnin, has a great chance to be impactful for us too in the kickoff return game. And I thought that, obviously with John Chance winning the Conference Player of the Week award within the Conference USA for his punting, flipped the field, just did a great job, in terms of punting. We've got to increase our hang time, in terms of his punting. I think our guys did a great job covering. The kickoffs are a huge plus, minus the first one. I think John's a guy that's really, he gets jacked up in terms, he gets excited, and I think he's trying to put the first one on top of the building. And fortunately, we ended up getting it rolled through the end zone. But after that, man, was just nails on kickoffs, did a great job punting. And so I was just really pleased with how our guys performed on special teams. And then, offensively, the start was slow. We've talked about it. We started the first quarter and a half of the football game slow. I think we were hesitant. We were indecisive. We did not play fast. And then I think we found our footing there at the end of the first half. The first 3 drives of the second half, the first 2 drives of the second half are really good in terms of our identity of playing fast. We protected the football at quarterback. I thought Trey played a clean, efficient game. I think that he made a couple big throws over the middle to Eli and Dedrick. I think he made first downs running the football, which he's going to have to do with his feet, which was positive to see. We've got to shore up our pass protection. We've got to clean up the pocket. We've got to be more firm there, be more productive with explosives in the run game and pass game. And so we'll have an opportunity to work on that, today in practice. And then I think defensively, just was really proud of our guys. Anytime you get a shutout, it's a big deal. Anytime you score points on defense in terms of a scoop and score, I think we had 3 red zone takeaways. And look at the production that our linebacker core had is phenomenal. And Makai Mason, again, the Conference Player of the Week on defense, really set the tone from that standpoint. And I think just really, really proud of his development as a player. I think mid to late last season really started to come on in terms of production on the field, made the most of his opportunities. And then I think from being able to see his progress through our winter program, through the spring, through the summer program, and then through fall camp, man, just a guy that's been just rock steady in terms of his production and his preparation. And it showed Saturday night. And so I was really proud of him and proud of how our defense played, to start the season. And so we know the challenge will get greater this week. It's an exciting opportunity for our football team. I think that anytime that you have a group of competitors and a group of fighters like our football team is, they're going to be excited about playing again. We have 11 more games that are on our schedule. We want to earn the rest of them. They're all important. And the most important thing that we have really in front of us is our preparation. And so a Tuesday practice today for us, an opportunity to get better in some of those areas we talked about, and to continue to develop our football team as we go through this season, as we get better every single day. So we're excited about what had happened. We're excited about this week. It's a huge challenge. It's a great football team. Defensively, they're big and fast. They really don't have any weaknesses from a personnel standpoint. They flew around the football really well against Clemson. Offensively, very explosive at the skill positions. Garrett Nussmeier is probably the best quarterback in the country. You watch him play. He's a coach on the field, and from the standpoint of getting them in and out of protections, moving, changing, all the different things they do at the line of scrimmage that he does. And so it'll be a great challenge. But I know that our kids will be excited, and we're going to prepare them to the best of our abilities this week and get better as a football team.
You guys head down to LSU as 37.5-point underdogs. Does that change the goal of the game plan going into Saturday night?
You know what? The only reason I would even know that is you brought it up. And our football kids probably see those types of things, but I try to live in a bubble, and I'm looking about Tuesday's practice and how can we improve our football team? You know, how do we continue to develop our defensive line? How do we continue to play at a high level at linebacker? You know, how do we continue to improve and develop those young corners that showed, you know, Amari Butler, you know, Cam Carter, J.T. Jackson. Those are the known commodities. Jamal Shelby played really well. You know, Seth Woods playing really well, and so how do we continue to get those guys better from the standpoint of practice, you know, the development of our team, you know, the game plans that we'll have, you know, in all these games, your margin for error is very small, and you have to maximize your opportunities, and how we do that is just to be our best. That's what I ask our kids, is to be your best, be our best, and go out and play Saturday night, you know, against a really good team. But you know, I really love our team and how competitive our team is, and the fight that we have, and also the talent in our room. So, you know, it'll be a good challenge, but, you know, whether we're underdogs or whether we're picked to win a game, the relevancy on a Tuesday afternoon practice is very minimal.
Have you seen these mid-major and I guess Power 4 matchups change since the inclusion of NIL, transfer portal, all that sort of stuff?
Well, I mean, you still see, you know, the occasional, you know, the Northern Illinois, I believe it was last year with Notre Dame, and you know, in college football. You know, it's become such a big business in terms of money. And anytime that there's money behind things, there becomes separation between the halves of a lot of money and the halves of not as much. And so, I mean, you've seen that some, but, you know, again, you know, the thing that you try to focus on in terms of these matchups is playing your best and improving.
Obviously, we know the SEC is going to a 9-game schedule, and they're going to really emphasize the Power 4 matchups in the non-conference. I guess what would be your hope for maybe these type of schools to continue, you know, these in-state matchups maybe with some teams and some lower conferences?
Yeah, I think the in-state part is a great point, because if you look at our roster and their roster, there's a lot of kids on our team that played park ball with these guys, you know, from the moment that they were little kids, and they've competed with them in high school, or they competed against them in high school, in particular the in-state kids. And so I think from an in-state standpoint, it makes a ton of sense. I mean, we're able to go down there on a Friday afternoon. You know, it's a bus trip for us, and so you know, our fans, there's a large contingency of fans for us in Baton Rouge, and so I think in terms of it being in-state, I think it makes a lot of sense. And you know, anytime you play an in-state game, you know, the intensity of it. I think the atmosphere is going to be, you know, probably the best that I've ever been a part of, and so I think that our kids are excited about that.
Talk Saturday night about how Trey and the offense, they came out, they looked hesitant in the first half. Obviously, you're not going to have a whole half against LSU, the big adjustment going into the third quarter. How do you get them to look a little more comfortable going in?
Well, I think just playing more into the identity of who they are, you know, and I think as we go through the practice this week and being able to play without thinking and just reacting, and I think putting them in situations, you know, in terms of play calls and things like that Coach Franklin's going to do.
What kind of like Trey, you know, obviously going to get some defense like that, what you like to kind of take away off, you know, facing a defense like that, what you
Well, I think that you've got to do things in terms of moving the pocket. You got to get the ball out of his hand quick. You got to be able to run the football, which they did a great job shutting down Clemson Saturday night, running the football and made them very one-dimensional. But I think one thing, you know, Trey has a great amount of athletic ability. I think he has really good pocket awareness and ability to keep plays alive. And I think that you'll definitely have to use that Saturday night.
To Megan's earlier question about the offense accountability, is it your intention that Coach Franklin will be on the sideline calling plays like the rest of the season, just based on how that went?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and you know, it was this is kind of how that went. So about middle of the second quarter, Coach Franklin, and his language is a lot more colorful than I'll be, and it was this is how much of a situation it was. We're playing like, you know what, on offense. I'm coming down in the second half. I said, you know what, that sounds great, Coach. Come down in the second half. And so he's done it a long time, and I think that helped our kids, and you know, and so I think from a comfort level, it's always better to be up top because you can see a little bit better. But also, I think that our kids are around them every day on the sideline, and I think they needed that.
talk about, a lot of these people, how do we get from the South Louisiana area, what is it going to be like outside is for them to be able to play in front of, the whole time, the inner hometown, and the COVID, is returning to get them.
Yeah, for Colby. I mean, he played there for a time, and again, there's a lot of our players that again have been teammates or have competed against these guys in high school. Obviously, this is a lot bigger venue and a different arena, and you know, there's going to be a lot of guys that'll have their family and friends there, and so I think anytime again, because it's the in-state portion of it, there's an extra added level of excitement for it. So, you know, I think you look back to last week, Southeastern Louisiana, just from the standpoint of you're playing in-state, you're playing against a lot of guys that you competed against or with in high school, and so anytime you do that, it's fun because you have bragging rights and you have that relationship part of it already, and you want to be a competitor, you want to come out on top.
Is there any way to simulate in practice or get the guys prepared for an atmosphere like Death Valley?
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, we'll pump crowd noise into the stadium, in practice for us in terms of a noise standpoint, and I think that we've got some guys on this roster that have been to Clemson. We've got guys that have been to Nebraska, but I would anticipate this being, you're looking forward to it from a standpoint of being in college football and being at the Horseshoe as a player, going to Texas A&M as a player and as a coach. Those are great environments, and this is something that I'm sure will top all of those, and so our guys are excited, looking forward to it, and the simulation of the noise, and we've got to do the best we can from a communication standpoint, because those are the ways that you find yourself, in long yardage situations on offense, just from a cadence and making sure that we're all on the same page from a communication standpoint, whether we have a blitz called or whatever the defensive call is, or if there's something that's changed or checked, that's where the communication has got to be 100%, 10 out of 10, just so you don't find yourself in a situation from an opportunity slipping out of your hands.
Coach Kelly, have any previous relationship at all?
No, they've been so gracious to us, every summer in terms of the camps. We are able to go down there, probably shoot about 5-6 times a summer, and be a part of their elite prospect camps, which there's so many prospects at those camps. And it's a great recruiting tool for us, an evaluation tool, and we've had conversations there. And so they've always just been nothing but open their doors to us, and with information on kids in terms of the camps, and has just done a phenomenal job. And so anytime that we're there, just trying to really soak up their knowledge and to really just soak up the experience they have and pick their brains. And so just really appreciative of that, because it's helped our program a tremendous amount from the standpoint of recruiting and developing and being able to go down there and be a part of those camps. And I know there's a lot of guys that are on staff that have been here, and Joe Sloan and Blake Baker, John Randall Belton, Sherman Wilson, Tim Rattay played here, had a storied career. And so the familiarity, and, with Kyle Williams being their D-line coach. So there's a lot of familiarity for them and for us, and they're great football coaches. But I think all of that will be pushed aside. Obviously Saturday night at 6:30.
You talked about Garrett Nussmeier. Obviously, he does not make very many mistakes, but your defense coming off 8 quarters of school, football, 3 takeaways last week. Just how important is it to try to get him to make a mistake and maybe go the ball late in early from the
Yeah, affecting the quarterback is your goal each week, and I think you do that different ways in terms of changing the picture pre-snap to post-snap. You try to get pressure, and that's going to be difficult to do. They have a really good offensive line, but I like the opportunity for us defensively to do that. And Coach Olson and the staff will put together a great plan, and so we'll be able to do that. But Nussmeier, he's fun to watch. He was fun to recruit. A long time ago when he was coming out of high school, and he's done a great job of developing, and Coach Sloan's done a phenomenal job with him, and so he's a really good player.
All right, Coach.
Yeah, thanks. Yep.
Coming off his first game as a Bulldog, rushed for 61 yards and 1 touchdown. If everyone's ready, we'll go ahead and open it up for questions.
Play LSU's defense, they held Clemson to just 31 rushing yards last week. Just how important will it be for you guys to get the ground game going early?
We go out to practice, we prepare all week, to try to keep the main thing. Use your athletic ability, make the first man miss, and, it's a big crowd, but it's still football at the end of the day.
Louisiana Tech offered you when you're so in Navarro in October. I guess just talk me through just the journey to kind of come to Louisiana Tech.
I had a few offers coming in to coming out of junior college, but Louisiana Tech was the first team to, bring my family out on a visit, come experience a game, and, really show love. Coach Teddy, he always called, got in contact with my mom, always called her, and that was a big thing. I was committed to Missouri State before. I flipped my commitment to Louisiana Tech, but I just always knew Louisiana Tech was why I wanted Louisiana Tech to be my home.
After the game, Coach Crum, you talked about, his frustration with Coach Franklin, being able to you guys kind of taking you put off the gas after the team comes forward. Do you feel like you guys need to clean that up before you get down to the shoot?
One more time.
After the game, Coach Crum, Coach Franklin talked about, it wasn't too big with you guys kind of taking the foot off the gas, in the Southeastern game. That's something you guys kind of want to clean up before you get down.
Oh, nah, of course. Even when you got to beat them up all day down, can't take no prisoners. But going into this week, like I said, we got to keep the main thing, keep working, go back to the drawing board. There's always things to fix. Yeah, we started off slow, but we ain't let it stop us. We practice fast, we work fast. So going into this game, we're going to keep doing what we do.
What do you like about Coach Franklin's offense?
Coach Franklin, he's decisive. He knows what he wants to do. He calls a play, and he just lets the players be athletes at the end of the day. Keep it simple, keep it fast, keep it, try to move the game quick, make our tired better than they're tired.
From a running back's perspective, how much does it help having a mobile quarterback that can maybe take some of the rushes off your guys?
I mean, it helps a lot. Trey, he opts out on feet every chance he get, and I love the way he runs the ball. He runs with grit. He doesn't let him being the quarterback stop him from dropping his shoulder, and that's pretty impressive. And I feel like in this league, you need a mobile quarterback in order to win games and, take control of the game and, give that defense to stay on their toes. Because, there's 11 men on the field, but with the quarterback being able to move, it is much harder.
When it comes to an atmosphere like Death Valley and a top 10 team like LSU, is there an intimidation factor going in, or is it more just excitement at getting a chance to maybe prove yourself?
I mean, excitement for sure, because at the end of the day, it's still football. Everybody came from the same place. Everybody, we all practice, we all put on gear, we all get out there, we all have the same amount of time on the clock. So everybody has you get out there, you just got to make the most of your opportunities.
All right, Clay, you good?
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Linebacker Makai Mason. Makai's coming off a career day. It was his birthday, actually. Had 9 tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. If everyone's ready, we'll go ahead and open it up for questions.
Makai, was that the best birthday that you've ever had? Saturday night?
Yes, I definitely, I prayed on it. Definitely, I would like to thank God and the coaching staff for, believing in me and giving me the ability to play out there and display my talent. And I feel like, the defense, we all came together and we all decided we're gonna put a goose egg. We're gonna keep it going from last year. So yeah, definitely my best birthday.
And obviously takeaways are a huge part of this defense. I guess, how do you guys sustain that, matchup to matchup?
I'll say our exotic looks. You never know what we're running as a defense because everything looks the same, but every play isn't the same. So I'll say yeah, definitely that.
All season, defensive staff said this linebacker has potential to be the best unit in the country. Do you feel like you guys kind of put that on notice in the first week with where you guys played?
Oh, definitely, for sure. I believe we the best linebacker room in the country. We got a 3-headed snake, me, Kobe, and Chief. And then we got other talented guys like Benji Johnson, Jaden Mayfield, and even Alonzo Jackson. So I feel like we can keep everybody fresh. Everybody, knows the plays, and we all got the ability to play out there.
When it comes going against, a Heisman favorite like Garrett Nussmeier, just what's the biggest goal that you want to see from this defense and try to impact his game early?
I'll say applying pressure. Definitely, that's probably our biggest part because when we apply pressure to people, it throws them off their game and the routine and everything. So yeah, definitely applying pressure.
Is there a way, you heard Coach mention, obviously you can't really simulate Death Valley, but how do you, I guess, as a defense, try and overcome the crowd noise and just things like that?
It's really not. We just gonna have to go out there and play football just like any other game. So, yeah.
Yeah, we got a lot of guys on this team that are from the South Louisiana area. for linebacker wise, do you guys need points or what to expect when you go together?
Oh yeah, Kobe definitely told me a couple things. You know, the fans heckling players on the sidelines, but you know, as long as we don't let that phase us, I feel like we should have a pretty clean game.
Kobe mention anything about kind of a little homecoming for him this weekend at all? Or?
Oh yeah, definitely. He's really excited for this game. I'm gonna just let him display that on the field.
What are your thoughts on being 37.5-point underdogs? Do you think it's fair?
I'm not really worried about that because we still got to play football at the end of the day, so we're going to see the outcome on Saturday.
Any more questions from Kai?
Appreciate that.
Appreciate it.